What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash podcast. Real quickly, before we dive into the episode, I want to share a little bit about my personal story with a magical drink called Magic Minds. This little guy right here. Now, it's been incredibly helpful for me in terms of being able to maintain a really consistent state of mental clarity and focus when I'm doing the podcast, because historically it's been really difficult for me to keep up with the pace and have engaging conversations, make sure that I'm dialed in, asking the right questions. It's a lot on a day-to-day basis, but Magic Mind really has been a huge help for me when it comes to that. They have all kinds of nootropics, matcha, adaptogens, vitamins, everything you essentially need to really kick ass when it comes to, podcasting. I'm sure it helps with many other things as well, but for me personally, that's where I've seen tremendous benefit. So I highly recommend this, guys. Make sure to check it out. Go to the website. Link is in the description below. If you use BlockHash 20, you will get a discount on your first purchase. You're not going to regret it, guys. Definitely get yourself a pack. Give these bad boys a try. All right, let's dive into the episode. Today, we have Roy back on the show, the CEO of LightLink, to talk about what they're up to here in 2024. New endeavors, new partnerships, new updates. So we wanted to bring him back on to find out what's going on with LightLink. So Roy, welcome back on the show, man. How you been?
I've been good. Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. What have you been up to this year? It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, the whole industry has certainly accelerated, and we've seen a tremendous growth here at LightLink in all aspect of what we do. About 3 weeks ago, we've launched our token, LightLink Token, LL, and listed on Bybit, KuCoin, Gate, and it wasn't an easy endeavor, but we finally got that done. We've done heaps of other things. So, for example, introduced a new architecture called Hummingbird, and that's in testnet at the moment. From a consumption perspective, it's one of the highest data requirements for Celestia as a modular infrastructure. So I'm super keen to see how that works in mainnet, whether if we're the highest user of Celestia in mainnet as well. And that'd be really interesting to see LightLink occupying like 20% of Celestia's capacity. But many other things, like we've announced a validator node program to make LightLink more decentralized and secure. And we've had a suite of different partnerships, with a really interesting Web2 brands, as well as in the Web3 space.
What's Hummingbird again? That's something that's new.
Yeah, it's completely new. It's implementing a more thorough, secure, decentralized, censorship-resistant architecture. Okay. So you can challenge the chain, and if it mismatches the proof that we post on layer 1, you can encourage the chain to roll back. So completely censorship-resistant. You can submit transaction directly to layer 1 to be included in LightLink. So it's no longer reliant on us. So lots of really interesting things to make LightLink a more trusted public utility.
And the token, how's the token going?
Yeah, we've had tremendous amount of interest leading up to the launch. We did a LBP, which is a reverse price discovery mechanism as a pre-sale activity. So that has done fairly well in gaining interest, but I think the token needs to find its feet in terms of supply and demand, but it should represent the value of the network. And as we continue to build, as we announce more partnerships, as we do what we say we're going to do, I think we'll accrue value in the network. And that's essentially what we're here to do, to maximize value creation for all the token holders out there.
It's such an interesting time to have you back on the show too, because of the state of the market. And the last time we talked, obviously we were in the middle of kind of a bear market, starting to come out of it for the first time, but really kind of deep in there, trying to figure out how things are going to shape up, which way we're going to break, and what's going to ignite this next cycle that, crypto generally goes in. And I feel like we're in that cycle. It should be pretty obvious, I think, to most people. You got Bitcoin sitting right at its all-time high. Who knows what it does next? You have Bitcoin ETFs floating around everywhere, attracting billions of dollars and capital inflows. Potentially Ethereum ETFs, maybe other crypto ETFs at some point. Like, it's very exciting to see that level of adoption at the institutional level. You're seeing all kinds of things happen within the ecosystem, new developments, new pushes for DeFi and NFTs, and you can feel it really start to bubble up. What do you think is going to be one of the major drivers for L2s like your guys, going into this next cycle? Like, is it going to be similar to past cycles, or do you think there's going to be some new things that come into play that maybe make L2s a bit more important than before?
Yeah, we didn't really see NFT as a key driver for the industry growth in the last cycle, and I think we need to have an open mind in terms of new things that might come through in this cycle. But you're right, like macro is really interesting. A lot of the fundamentals still hasn't changed substantially. There's still a couple of wars going on around the world. Interest rates still really high, and there's a lot of uncertainty, going into the next couple of years, right? But I think people are more optimistic, pessimistic, and therefore we've seen a resurgence of the market, both in traditional equities as well as in crypto. And certainly, I think that optimism will carry forward in terms of where we will be. So I'm quite optimistic. We're, in the early springs or even early summers of the market, of the crypto market, especially. In terms of L2s, it really tries to solve a problem that we saw in the last cycle. We were building these NFT projects for sporting events and music events and other games and things like that, and people were paying hundreds of dollars in transaction fees per transaction. It was ridiculous, right? We were doing a Uniswap trade. You will be paying substantial gas fees, and I think everybody really saw that and suffered from it. So there are a lot of different solutions to that problem, as of today. So layer 2 is certainly one of those solutions, and I think it underlines what we're trying to do, which is to encourage global adoption for Web3, to accelerate the adoption and to provide scalability and lower the barriers of entry into this new industry. So I think as more people enter the space, as retail investors or Web2 users or gamers come and experiment with this technology, if we set such a high barrier to entry, whether if it's complex technology or low capacity, in terms of how long a transaction takes or how expensive a transaction will cost, we certainly won't get the adoption that we need and grow as an industry. So layer 2s are here. I mean, that's what LightLink is all about, to introduce that new capacity. And I think that's a important factor in how I see things.
Yeah, I've seen a growing interest in layer 2s here in 2024. And I think a lot more people starting to look at them for possible solutions. And I know there's quite a few out there in different ideologies about how to go about scaling blockchains, connecting blockchains, making things easier to use, solving some of those problems and redundancies. What are some things that you feel really set LightLink apart from the crowd, like make it different and make it a bit more special in the way that it functions?
Yeah, so we have a enterprise focus in what we do, and it stems from the conversations that we've had with CTOs and CEOs over the past 6 years. Take Bank of Japan as an example, right? Like, this is a very large financial institution, very traditional. They also have a innovations department, and that would like to experiment with new technology, carry out proof of concepts and things like that. So that the example that I have for you guys is when the innovation engineering department want to experiment with this technology, they would like to procure some Ether to do a proof of concept on Ethereum. And they will go to their finance department and go, hey, can you procure some Ether for us, for us to deploy these pilots? And their finance department don't know what to do. they would go to a centralized exchange. They would, KYC, KYB, Bank of Japan, KYB. Imagine that, man. And buy some ether, and then they would hold on to it somewhere. And they have no knowledge in how to process and use this native token. And that's the problem we're trying to solve. When we work with large enterprise, it's a fiat-denominated gas fee paid in bulk. And therefore, from a user perspective, it's completely gasless, lowering barrier to entry for participants. But from an enterprise perspective, there's an invoice, there's a receipt. It's very difficult to issue an invoice to Ethereum, right? So with LightLink, we have a corporate entity that you can engage from a enterprise perspective. So we see the future where substantial more users enter the space via Web2, via existing industries, and we're trying to help them to onboard into Web3 a little bit easier.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about gas fees. Do you think that LightLink as a layer 2 can help either eliminate or just radically minimize gas fees on top of blockchains? I know that's been a problem for so long. And I know there's kind of a competing aspect between a lot of L2s on how to do that and who can do it the most. But do you think it's possible to get it like down to zero at some point or near zero, like so that it's almost negligible for people to even think about?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because you're really referring to per transaction cost. And in a lot of situations, we don't really, in real world situations, we don't really pay per transaction costs for things like when we go to a supermarket or, when we fill up our car with gas. It's a concept that works really well in the layer 1 environment. And that's what we're fundamentally trying to change. In the layer 2 environment, maybe you can reconsider the economic model as opposed to inheriting the economic model from layer 1s. So LightLink has true gas models, the supply and demand per transaction model, just like everyone else, but also has a bulk transaction capability. So in bulk, just like you would go, to Costco or other types of trading, you can buy things, pre-order things at a certain capacity, just like the example that we're talking about earlier with AWS, right? You provision for a high tier, and that tier gives you a capacity. You provision that tier, and you forecast that tier, and you measure how that is used against your audience, and that's how we're able to lower per transaction costs or bring it down to zero for the customers of these smart contracts. And therefore, it's a better user experience. And that's what we really care about. How can we lower the barrier to entry so more people can come and participate?
Are there any industries that you want to tailor LightLink to a bit more? Like I know there's a lot of L2s that focus on, being general and broad. And I know some also focus on specific industries, whether it's retail or gaming or, do you guys have like a focus? Like, do you want to focus on a certain sector, or is LightLink something that's just kind of open for everyone to develop?
Yeah, LightLink is a permissionless open public network. So we don't really prevent people from deploying a smart contract or censor them from doing what they want to do. And we've seen a array of different use cases from DeFi to Web2 to supply chain to gaming, right? But the conversation that we've had across the industry, certainly gaming has been one of the easiest conversations to have, because if they've experimented with the Web3, they are suffering with all the congestion and scalability issues. And if they're using databases, it makes a lot of sense to bring a lot of things on chain because it's more interoperable, it's composable, and there are a lot of merits of using Web3 as a technology. They're typically much faster decision makers comparing to a financial institution because their audience, their developers are in the same demographic and understand technology a lot more. So we've seen a uptake around that, especially in consumer-facing Web2 industries. So as an extension to gaming, maybe like media, sports, entertainment, popular culture. And I think other industrial applications will come, but that would just take a little bit of time.
Have you guys had any talks with existing games or gaming studios potentially about maybe partnering and, using LightLink for some potential solutions or use cases?
Yeah, certainly. We are a really close partner to Animoca Brands, and we've actually built a couple of their portfolio companies that became independent studios within the Animoca portfolio of investments. Take Red Village as an example. They are launching a new game called Dark Times, and we had a lot of involvement from a technical perspective in building that game. And the Red Village is one of the first games that we migrated to LightLink because its capacity issues. Assets remain on Polygon, which is great, but introducing a new execution layer for smart contracts to operate at a much higher velocity and lower cost benefit everybody in the equation. More gamers can come and play the game at a lower cost, and we can operate the infrastructure at a much higher capacity, much higher scalability, and LightLink is adding value to everybody in this equation. So we're trying to repeat this story with quite a few different games. So for example, Grapes is a fantastic game that's on LightLink. Tally Up is another, and we're talking to many other game studios and games as well.
What about scalability with LightLink? What are the limits and possibilities of how much you guys can scale? And are there things you guys are doing to further improve that scalability?
Yeah, so LightLink has a theoretical TPS of 5,700 at the moment, operating at a block time of 500 milliseconds. So if you look at that capacity, you multiply that by how many seconds there are in a day, you roughly equate to 429 million transactions a day. And that's a lot of transactions, right, to fill a fairly large block space to fill up. And we have plans on how we can increase that capacity. So for example, really easy thing for us to do from a technical perspective is to reduce the block time from 500 milliseconds to 250 milliseconds. And that instantly doubles the capacity of the chain. But there's no need to do that until we fill up the 429 million transactions first. And we're actively talking to, games and loyalty providers and media companies in terms of how we can add value using on-chain technologies. And yeah, it's we're getting there, but there's still quite a bit of room to go for filling up the 400 million capability.
This next one might be an interesting question. I've heard it kind of tossed around a few times, so I figured I'd introduce it into this conversation since LightLink is an L2. But I've heard people start to talk about, with the advent of AI continuously growing over the past year and a half in LLMs, talking about ways to potentially integrate that into L2s and maybe creating some solutions around blockchain where AI can maybe plug in or integrate or even help create better L2s. I was curious, is that something that you guys have explored at all? Like, is that a real thing or is that just air in the winds? I'm just kind of curious, like from your guys' perspective.
Yeah, I'm also keen to hear what you think about this subject as well. After, I'm sure you've spoken to many different businesses and chains and networks on this topic. AI is an interesting one. I think it's a fundamental paradigm shift in our humanity, right? In our technology infrastructure. We use AI extensively in development. So every single one of our developer has a co-pilot that amplifies the output, making sure the code that they develop is more secure, more scalable, more interoperable, a better source code. We use AI for infrastructure in terms of detecting vulnerabilities, looking at all the ways that we can do better infrastructure. But fundamentally, within the chain itself, not so much. The chain is a computation program, right? Like it's a computation platform it's an open computation network for the world. The ability to embed AI natively into that experience, I'm not sure if it's very suitable, but certainly on top, right? People can build AI agents to trade tokens. We did a hackathon recently, and this team built this AI NFT marketplace. And there's another team that built a prompt marketplace, being able to resell prompts for various agents. So I think there's definitely room on top, as well as during creation, but right there in the middle, it's something that hasn't mapped very naturally. What do you think, Brandon?
I think in some aspects very similar. Like I've seen stuff where people are trying to find ways to, I think, monetize prompting for AI, because obviously there will be a lot of different AIs out there and they will all compete, but they're all going to have very similar user interfaces for you to interact with. And you go to query something with AI, prompting is going to be very important, because the more specific and the more you cater it to that specific AI, let's take ChatGPT, for example, the more accurate and proficient of a result you're going to get in return that it's going to spit out. And I've seen a lot of people, talk about ways to maybe tokenize that, maybe sell it as an NFT, maybe put it on an open marketplace, maybe, find ways to control IP around that. There's some really deep rabbit holes there, I think, where you can leverage blockchain to benefit AI, but also to leverage AI to benefit blockchain, probably more so on an above layer where, I was looking at Chat GPT 4 or GPT-4 Omni that just came out, and that you can literally hold up your phone and show it like a piece of code and say, how would you make this system more efficient? How would you eliminate potential threat vectors? And it would tell you like in a split second, oh, implement this, implement that. And I'm like, God, that's like a developer's dream, right? How many hours of, time and code and analyzing you spend to fix those things, to make sure that your wallet doesn't get hacked or that your bridge doesn't fail. There's probably a lot of instances on top of blockchain where AI can be very beneficial. And I'm very excited to see where that gets implemented, because it's been a bumpy road over the last few years, right? There's been a lot of hacks, a lot of people lost money, a lot of failed bridges, a lot of wallets, hot and cold, a lot of issues. And I think that's something that's going to help tighten up the security of the space even further. Directly on chain, I think it's something like you'd have to build out that blockchain with AI in some kind of respects. And I don't really see the use case for it yet, but I'm sure someone will do it. But I am excited from an L2 stance, where maybe you can potentially take that integration. It is exciting to explore. Hey guys, hope you are enjoying the episode. Wanted to really quickly remind you one more time about Magic Mind. I'm just going to take a quick shot because this really does keep me going, but I highly encourage you guys to check it out. Remember, you can get it at Magic Mind's website, link in the description below. BlockHash 20 is a special code that we have also in the description that gives you a discount on your first purchase. So make sure you get your pack of Magic Minds and implement it into your daily routine so that you have maximum focus, maximum clarity, and the best cognitive function and alertness that you can get. So good. So good. All right, guys, back to the episode.
Yeah, exactly. I completely concur, right, man? On the application layer, I think it adds tremendous value. When you look at blockchain as a key characteristic, right, it's immutable. It's mathematically permanent from that immutability perspective. So it lends to the opposite of where AI is. But it also solves the problem of infinite productivity. And AI, to me, is like the infinite productivity, right? So when a model can use a LLM to generate a video of you, of me, talking about something that is not true, we can use blockchain as a authenticity layer potentially to almost attest that this thing actually happened, where this other video is a is a rendered version of something else. I think blockchain can definitely play a role there, but I still think we're still a little bit further away from this reality. I think they're fairly opposite, but complementing each other.
Aside from that, though, I also want to know about your guys' token. Like, how has that, been going? I know that you guys released that not too long ago. What are the benefits of the token in regards to how it works with LightLink? Maybe some of the um, integral functionalities, as well as maybe what you hope it to be used for.
Yeah, certainly. So the LR token is a governance token. First and foremost, it represents your ownership of the network. As we accrue value in the network, and network is a compound of the participants, right? Like the exponential growth compounding of the participants. So the value should accrue and increase, and therefore your ownership of the network represents that value accumulation. And as a governance token, you're able to voice how you want the network to be going forward. Do we adopt this new technology? Do we investigate that direction? Do we invest in a grant to incentivize this game or this DeFi protocol to come onto the network? So that decision essentially becomes token holders. And it's really good to have a wide array of different opinions and objectives for us to grow collectively. And as a token holder, as we encourage more people to participate in the network, there would be more and more benefits we will provide to LightLink will provide to token holders. So for example, validator nodes is a initiative that we're cooking up at the moment. And it's about how do we make the network more decentralized and more secure, right? Like as a core objective. But then if you hold LR tokens, the cost of operating this network, the barrier to entry would reduce because you're a token holder. And we will use LR as a incentive for you to operate this network, for you to operate your node. So there is a economy which we can introduce to this equation after we now have this token in place. We have also been working with our partners in introducing that cross-pollination. So for example, for an earlier adopter of the network, we're giving away Mocker IDs from the Mocker airdrop, from the Mocker token sale. We did an Australian Open commemorative NFT on LightLink as well earlier in the year. So yeah, as we accumulate more partners into the ecosystem, I think token holders would be the first to benefit from it.
What other things are on your guys' roadmap for the rest of 2024? I know you guys have done a whole lot of stuff just in the first half of this year. Obviously, we got a long way to go still, and there's a lot of excitement in the air. What are some other things you want people to keep an eye on that you guys might be working on going into the next couple quarters?
Yeah, the journey actually started years and years ago. That all the things that we're building is an accumulation of all the efforts and the networks that we have built over many years. There are many other larger opportunities in media, in sports, in many other industries, and I think they would all be really interesting for our community, for the world to look at how do we scale, and bring real world applications into this network. So in terms of what's coming up immediately, our validator node program is really interesting. It allows you to partake in the network, but also we have a couple of really novel capabilities, innovations there. And like I was saying before, our Hummingbird architecture is going to mainnet soon. Keen to see if we're the top use of Celestia's capacity in mainnet. So that'd be really interesting to observe too.
I'm excited for you guys. It's going to be cool to watch your journey continue to unfold as it has been already. Roy, thanks for taking the time to come back on the show. It's always a pleasure. I'm very excited about what you guys are doing in particular in the space. I think L2s are going to be something that grow to be incredibly crucial for blockchain to continue to develop out all the applications we want, all the interactions, the interoperability, the scalability. I do think L2s have a very important role to play. And I think LightLink is going to be one of those leading, if not top leading L2s out there, really dominating. And I think you guys' work speaks for itself. So again, thanks for coming on and sharing. And again, where can people go if they want to learn more about LightLink? They're a user, they're a developer, they're a business wanting to work with you guys and collaborate. Where can they go? Where would you direct them?
LightLink.io is a great destination to learn about us, to look at developer documentation, to follow us on Twitter, to bridge over some assets. It's the website that connects everything together. We're very active on Twitter, on Telegram. So our Twitter handle is LightLink Chain. And yeah, come and follow us, look at all the updates and fantastic things that we're doing. Thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and chat about a few really interesting and insightful questions.
Always, man. We'll be looking forward to part 3 in the near future. But take care in the meantime. We'll talk soon.
Cheers, Brandon. Appreciate your time.